Hello, everybody. I apologize for this slight delay in getting started. We were supposed to start at 11 a.m. this morning, but I had some technical difficulties to walk through, which is part of the course for our modern life. But I just wanted to pop on here today as we kind of teased earlier in the week to really break down the do's and don'ts of how to behave or conduct yourself on LinkedIn. So we're going to be chatting about that today. This is, of course, a super casual conversation for us to dive into, but something that is really, really important, especially for job seekers out there, and even people who are currently in their current role, who are employed, to really understand how to best navigate this new world that we find ourselves in. Gone are the days of walking into a place and asking for a resume and being able to fill out a form and be considered. So you really need to make sure that you are keeping up with the best ways to leverage the tools at your disposal. And LinkedIn is one of the biggest ones. I can say from my personal experience as a recruiter, that people in the staffing field operate on, and it's a big one that a lot of job seekers are working on. But it's kind of an interesting bridge between social media and the professional world. So we're going to talk all about that today. And of course, this could be a super, super long series to talk about, but I'll try to keep it brief. First, we're going to talk about what not to do, and then leave you with what you could do moving forward on LinkedIn. So let's just kind of start with what I opened up with. As I mentioned, LinkedIn is a social media, but it is a social media with sourcing capabilities, with sales capabilities for the back end. And it is something that you need to differentiate in your mind. So you don't want to treat LinkedIn like you would Instagram. You don't want to treat LinkedIn like you would Twitter or Facebook. It is something that you need to make sure that you are cognizant of on a consistent basis so that you're not sending the wrong messages to anyone who be viewing your profile out there, but especially hiring managers if you are on the market, and peers in your space if you are not. So one thing that we always encourage people to think about is, make sure that if someone was going to look back on your past activity, that they're not going to see anything glaring that would make them have any concern about your professionalism. So you want to make sure that every post that you are posting is posted with intention. It's posted with, a goal behind it, but it also leads back to the action you are taking. A lot of the times we see people out there who are just posting that they need a job or are open to new opportunities. And time again, that's the only route that they're taking. And you're seeing that they're not getting bites. And part of the reason is they're expecting people to come to them, but also they're putting out the wrong image to employers out there. So that's one pearl of wisdom that we always like to touch on with LinkedIn. Make sure that you're using it as a social media tool for your advantage. You don't need to be an influencer, especially on LinkedIn. That's not something that you need to worry about, but you do want to be aware of the content that you're putting out there and kind of how that's being presented to your peers. Another thing that we want to mention that spins off of that is don't post too much or too little. This is very tricky because it goes into, well, what should I post? Is this too much? I guess that could be very subjective, what too much is or what too little is. But we always like a good rule of thumb to post a couple of times a week, and make sure that those are, posts with substance. So if you are job seeking, sharing articles of industries that you're interested in entering is super important. If you see something that is interesting about the job market, sharing that and commenting on that, sharing your experience. Again, we want to make sure that the social aspect of LinkedIn isn't eliminated, but that you keep in mind that you would be conducting yourself on there the same way you would in an office setting. So that's a good rule of thumb that we like to do. Of course, if you tend to have more time to post and it's something that you are, committed to growing your community on LinkedIn for your own viewing audience, have at it. I think, as I believe, this is definitely my internal knowledge, but I believe that as a layperson, you can track that type of data to see if it's helping grow your profile by posting more, posting less. But you don't want to be spamming people. So at the end of the day, don't be spamming, but take it with your best judgment. And again, going back to making sure that there's substance behind what you're posting will really make sure, I think, that the fluff gets eliminated on its own. Another thing that we like to kind of encourage people to steer clear of is kind of twofold. When you send a request to somebody, if they deny your request, we don't encourage you to send another one. You may have every reason in the world for wanting to connect with the person that you're connecting with, but if they're not interested in connecting with you at that time, it's time to get creative and try another avenue. Another reason why we discourage people from double requesting is because you could get flagged on the back end of LinkedIn as an account to watch, essentially, and it can limit your ability to connect with people down the road. So just something to keep in mind if you are denied or aren't hearing back, or for sure that you requested someone and then the next time you check out their profile, it still says connect, probably best to hold off and try a new route. Another thing too is don't just go through your connection pages. We know that LinkedIn will show you, if you connected with someone at the bottom, it'll say, oh, here are all the other people that you connected with. Do you want to connect with them too? Don't just go through and spam, click, connect with all those people. And we'll get to this in the LinkedIn dues portion, but it really hinders your ability when you do that to actually make a genuine connection with the people that you're looking to add to your network. And when you make those connections, it's just like having a number. It's not really a genuine network connection that you might be able to utilize professionally down the road. So with that, I guess we kind of like to segue into the LinkedIn do's, because there's a lot more that you can do that I think you can spin what to stay away from into a LinkedIn do. So we'll go into that. But essentially, the first thing that we want you to always keep in mind is grow your network, but don't grow your network, like we mentioned, in an unintentional way. Make sure that you are reaching out to people who you're interested in speaking with and connecting with and have an actual purpose behind your connection. And make sure that when you also do that you're sending personalized connection requests. So that kind of goes into what we talked about in the don't section about don't spam people through that connect section, because you want to make sure that when you reach out to people, you send a message saying, hey, this is how I found you. This is why I'm interested in connecting. This is the person we know in common. Would love to add you to my network. That goes such a longer way than just connecting with people mindlessly and then kind of going into the abyss and never hearing from them again. Another thing to think about is that when you add it, make it personal, especially when you're a job seeker, looking to connect with people who are in the room making those hiring decisions. Sending that actual note attached to it would make you stand out from the other candidates out there. Recruiters especially are constantly reached out to connect with for future opportunities or current opportunities. And you can really set yourself apart and make sure that you're staying on their radar by sending that personalized connection. Another thing that we wanted to mention was that it's always great and something easy to do and harmless to congratulate people for anniversaries and promotions. Of course, it depends on the sharing that the people on the other end are willing to do. Some people don't share when they get a promotion, it's their anniversary. But if that's turned on, they're definitely willing to share, and we encourage you to just send a quick note, send a celebration or a like, and all those options now under the like button on LinkedIn, and a nice comment saying congratulations on your new role. That really just, I think, is super important, and it can make it a standout relationship that might benefit you down the road. Another thing that we definitely encourage you to do is brand yourself on LinkedIn. This goes back to looking at if someone was to come across your profile and look at your activity, what would they see? So by branding yourself on LinkedIn, it does take more, like I said, intention to really figure out what image you're trying to put out to the world. But it can help guide you and kind of tell your story from your LinkedIn profile before anyone meets you. So that's something that we really encourage. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to job seek? And then what story are you trying to tell through that? Are you trying to grow your network? What type of story are you trying to tell through that? Or are you a professional trying to share your expertise? Again, what kind of story are you telling? What are you, I guess, what image are you putting of yourself professionally out to the world? And again, this isn't so much like LinkedIn, like Instagram and Facebook, but it is one of those things that you still need to be aware of as you're putting yourself out there on these public domains. Another thing that we also encourage is that if a recruiter reaches out to you, make sure that you respond to that recruiter, even if it's a role that you're not interested in or is kind of outside of your wheelhouse of what you're looking to going into moving forward. But it's always a great way to say, thank you for reaching out to me. I really appreciate your interest. However, these are the positions that I'm looking to target. Please keep me in mind if those roles were to come up in the future. Again, another way to make a very genuine connection, to wish them well in their search, but to tell them that it's, doesn't hit the mark with you this time. And on that note, that's always a great opportunity to, if you have anyone who is in your network who does fit the bill, to send their name along to that recruiter and hopefully put them in the running. Another good thing for anyone to do, but especially, job seekers out there, someone looking to grow their career, is keep an eye on who views your profile. Now, I know that this is a feature available in the more premium packages available with LinkedIn, but if you are a member or a part of a free trial, when someone looks at your profile, take a look at who they are, what they might be looking for, and follow up with them if you're interested in maybe what they're selling, just to see kind of what they're looking for, if they have any questions that you could help them answer. Doing so could kind of be your way as a job seeker or someone out there, like I said, looking just to grow their career, to kind of do that sales lead in a way on their own, but by using their LinkedIn. And then finally, the holy grail of LinkedIn, make sure that your photo on LinkedIn is professional. We want it to speak to who you are. So not to completely erase, who you are as a person, but selfies generally are something to stay away from. Something where you are, in a plain background is definitely something people look for, just because it has that more polished look, and it just can show that you took that extra step of making sure that your profile is professional in that image that you want to put forward. With that as well, I guess another holy grail, the second holy grail of LinkedIn, is always make sure that content-wise, not necessarily your activity or how you're interacting with LinkedIn, but make sure that your content in your resume section on LinkedIn, where it's actually going into your experience and skills and softwares, make sure that that aligns as best as you can with the current resume that you're using. You want things to line up, because oftentimes recruiters will look at your resume and then they'll go to your LinkedIn and make sure that the dates are the same and then everything's congruent, just because when all of that's lined up, it gives us a stronger sense that what you are putting forward is true and accurate, and we can trust that you do have this experience to back up what you have put down on paper. And then finally, create a fun and unique headline for your summary. This is something that I definitely have gone back and forth with personally, just because it can be really hard to kind of find something creative and funky and fun to kind of say about yourself in a professional way. But I could say from experience, and even coworkers that I have who have really great headlines, make sure that you have a unique headline. If you can, make it fun. If not, make it unique. And again, this is especially important if you're on the market and you might not have, your title at said company. By having that creative headline, it can kind of fill that gap for you. If you are, being looked at by a recruiter who is maybe a little bit more hesitant working with someone who is currently unemployed or between gigs. So again, there's so much that we could go into when we come to talk about LinkedIn do's and don'ts, but those are kind of the biggest things to keep in mind. I would love if you all could add to the comments if you have any additional tips or tricks that you have found beneficial, or if you've heard through the grapevine. This is something that could be just our perspective and other people feel differently about, so we welcome your feedback. But yeah, that's kind of all we had today. If anyone has any other questions, like I said, please feel to connect with me on the side here in the comments. I would love to continue this conversation, and if we get enough bites, maybe we'll have a follow-up to this series. So thank you so much for joining me today. Again, my name is Caitlin Sanders. I am the marketing specialist here at Premier. And if you'd like to connect, please do so. Thank you.